This is a 1980s Rock-Ola SuperSound 2 jukebox, and I want to get rid of it because, honestly, no exaggeration, I have 4 of them. So it's time to get this one finished and sold, so we need to do some major work. Honestly, it's in pretty good condition besides for this corner right here, so let's get on that. I've already gone ahead and wood hardened this, so it's already hard as a rock. The wood hardener is basically like super glue for all the wood particles, makes it hard as an absolute rock. Now we just need to rebuild this corner. Hopefully we'll be able to resave some of this wood grain side, as I really don't want to have to replace that entire wood grain panel. That would be quite difficult. First things first, we're going to peel up this T-trim if we can. This stuff's going to have to be replaced. It's honestly not in terrible condition, but since it's split here, we're missing a chunk. Obviously, it's going to get replaced with brand new, so honestly, we can just rip this. Oh, god damn it, I hate it when that happens. The T is staying in the track, so I guess we'll just break it off here, and we'll deal with that later. Now that we've taken a razor blade and we've trimmed off some of the extra wood off of these pieces so they'll all fit together properly, I'm taping everything up nice and tight so everything's held up in the right position, and then we're going to add a little bit of wood filler, in this case Bondo, to hold everything in place and to fill in this giant groove of stuff that's missing. Now that we've got everything taped up, now we just need to push in some Bondo in here. Then, once that dries, we'll be able to remove the tape and fill in the rest of it. And there we go. We got another layer of Bondo on that. As soon as that dries, we'll get that sanded down, do some shaping, and probably one last layer of Bondo. I also did some looking and found that I can get enough wood grain to redo this entire thing for about $45. So obviously, we're gonna just put new wood grain on it, because for 45 bucks, it's gonna make this thing look a whole lot better. There's a few things we'll touch up. There's a little bit of damage right around there. This honestly is in pretty damn good condition, so 45 bucks on new wood grain. Get rid of that and some other damage around the edges, I think that'll be worth it. So I got that corner bondoed. Ended up having to do this corner. That corner is going to need some. I realized that was soft when I was pulling off the T-trim. And I've honestly realized this entire edge is soft, which is pretty common. So what we're going to actually do is take some more wood hardener, and we're just going to put some hardener on the entire edge of this cabinet just to make sure we don't get any edge flaking once we're finished. And here is our fun little wood glue. This stuff is like magic. I'm not going to actually put it up there because if that spills, it's going to be an absolute pain to clean up. Just soak this brush, and basically we're just going to simply soak this into the wood. You want to make sure it actually soaks in. It takes quite a good bit of this stuff, and it's not the cheapest. It's like $20 a can for this stuff, but it works really, really well. There we go. Now these edges are all wood hardened, so as soon as they dry, we'll get right back to Bondo. Now that we're mostly done repairing the damaged wood on these corners, it's time to recut that T-trim slot, which is the slot here for the T-trim. And to do that, we're going to be using this router here with a T-trim cutting bit, with this spaced out to the right size, so we just kind of have to run this all the way up, and it'll cut a nice slot. Perfectly the right thickness for our T-trim. Now something very important before you go to cut the T-trim slot is to remove anything that the router bit's going to hit, like this piece of metal here that's supposed to protect this bottom edge. But when we go to route around this corner, if that metal bit hits this, we're going to cause a lot of damage to both that and my router bit. And I don't really want to do that because those aren't cheap. I mean, not really, they're like 15 bucks, but still, I don't want to have to repair that. So let's just remove this on both sides so we don't have to worry about that for when we accidentally hit it. Well, hopefully we don't accidentally hit it because we're going to remove it. And there we go. Now we have a nice T-trim slot cut all the way down. And now I've laid the cabinet over on its back for one specific reason, and that is this is really, really bad. This is a problem with a lot of arcade machines. A lot of companies didn't paint the bottoms of their cabinets, well, because nobody was going to see them. And well, guess where a lot of moisture sits? Down low in people's basements on their concrete floors. So luckily this bottom's actually not too bad. It's mostly this back edge. I mean, I guess it was against a brick wall in a basement that was damp, and it's obviously caused some pretty major water damage. That's pretty bad. I'd like to replace this board completely, however I really can't without completely demolishing this cabinet, mainly due to the fact it's slotted into these sides. So to replace this bottom board, I'd have to completely demolish the cabinet, and at that point, well, you're doing way too much damage, so it's not going to be worth it. So what we're going to do is wood harden this entire thing, these bottom edges. Always make sure you wood harden these edges. This side seems to be pretty good, but this side definitely has had a little bit of swelling. So we're going to have to wood harden that and sand that down a little bit. Sucks, but it's what you gotta do to save these machines. A lot of cabinet flippers won't actually, funnily enough, flip a cabinet over to inspect the bottom and realize that there's a ton of damage on the bottom, even though the bottom is usually what gets damaged the most. Besides for just, like, wear on the sides. For water damage, the bottom is usually where it's all at. So, had I not flipped this thing over, I could have restored the sides, the top, the front, and all that, and nobody would ever notice that all this damage was here until, most likely, when they went to load it into their vehicle, they flipped it over and, what the hell happened here? And I got scammed. But you want to make sure you get this cabinet looking absolutely awesome, or any cabinet from all sides, all the way around, the top, the bottom, everywhere. You don't want to skimp out anywhere. So we need to put a lot of wood hardener on a lot of this, and more Bondo on a lot of this. And there we go. The entire bottom should look a little bit more wet now, and give it a few hours, and this whole thing should be hard as a rock. Hopefully just as hard as original, and we'll be able to start repairing these chunks of wood that are missing. Again, sucks to have to do this entire thing. I'd much prefer to replace it, but again, you'd have to basically destroy the cabinet to do that. Slight bit of an issue. One of these four wheels is missing all of its steel ball bearings. That really sucks, because the rest of these all are in pretty good shape, and with a little bit of cleaning up, are perfectly usable. But this fourth one, the one that was right here where it broke, is kind of screwed up. Luckily, I happen to have one. A long time ago, I scrapped one of these SuperSounds that the previous owner had left outside, and all of the wood was completely gone on that one. I ended up using electronics to restore one that I had that was just empty, but I saved absolutely everything off of it, so there's a wheel. And there we go. This is now hard as a rock, just what we wanted. Started gluing this piece in here, right here, with some good old wood glue. Gotta let that dry. And we're going to fill in all of this missing junk with Bondo like we did on those corners. And we're going to send it down, and we're going to end up painting this bottom because we're going to make it better than it was from the factory, because I don't want this getting soft again. So as soon as we get this done, we're going to be painting all this so it doesn't get soft again. So let's throw some Bondo on this bottom edge, get all that squared off, and we should be getting ready to get this thing finished, and we can put these wheels back on, though I have something planned for those wheels, I think. Now, we've built this out a little bit. It's not quite enough, but we're out enough that I'm going to sand it down to see where we need to add more, and add more. So let's get to sanding. After a bit of sanding, this is what we're left with. We're almost done. We need a little bit more, well, actually quite a bit more right through there, and a little bit more along basically the entire edge. But I went ahead and also sanded this board here, so it's nice and smooth, so it'll be perfect for painting. It's coming along, just a little bit more along that bottom edge. And here are those pieces of metal that I think we should probably get sandblasted. I'm going to sandblast these things, and we're going to repack the grease in these, but I think maybe even powder coat them. I got a few of these to spare, so if we run one that doesn't really matter, I got like 2 more. So, I think, yeah, we're going to sandblast this thing, and then we're going to try powder coating it. I think I'll be able to powder coat it without ruining the bearings and this thing here if I just cover those up when I'm throwing powder, and I think we'll be able to end up with a nice looking wheel that, well, still works. Especially these. These I definitely can powder coat. So let's throw all this stuff in the sandblaster, get it all sandblasted, and see what we can do with it. And here's all of those pieces of metal nicely sandblasted. These wheels turned out real nice. And these pieces turned out pretty nice too. Let's throw some powder. We're gonna powder coat these first, and I guess we'll powder coat one of these wheels and see how it works. If it works, we'll powder coat the rest of them. First little edge bar in the oven. Let's get this thing cooking. Now, we need to figure out a way to powder coat these wheels. I'm not concerned about anything getting in this axle. There's a ton of extra room in that axle, so any powder in there is not going to be a real issue. It might get stuck, but once you break it free, it should be fine. The main concern is getting powder on all of these ball bearings, so we just need to tape that off to keep the powder from going in there. Once we're done powder coating these, we'll pack that with grease. And there we go. First wheel done. That turned out really well. It still rotates good. As you can see, I taped off that a little bit too much there, but that's fine. We'll pack that full of grease here. Rolls nice. I'm going to do the rest of these things, so this works out really well. And there we go. 4 beautifully powder-coated wheels and our sidebars. I'm going to pack these things with some grease in there just to help them move a little bit better. And honestly, these should be done. And there we go. All of the wheels have been greased. They are looking absolutely fantastic. Those bottom edge pieces are looking fantastic. Now we just need to make this looking fantastic, and then we can put all those things back on. But first, we're going to have to finish this bottom edge, so I guess let's do a little bit more sanding. And I think that should be it. I just put a little bit more wood hardener on the wood that was exposed during the sanding, because that stuff will get down to some soft stuff. So as soon as that dries, I honestly think this bottom here is going to be ready for paint. Be able to put all those metal pieces back on it and flip this thing back up right. But I think that's where we're going to leave it for this episode. If you guys want to see more and see this thing get finished, this nice old Rock-Ola SuperSound jukebox, please like and subscribe. Hopefully we'll get this thing sold soon, because I got 2 more of them that need finished, and about 30 more other jukeboxes.